Your power caused the target to explode, dealing an additional of 262% of weapon damage as poison damage to a nearby foe. It used to be 145%, boosted up all the way to 262.
I welcome you to MiniMi.
Let's go ahead and review the enchantments now that we have 44 beautiful people in the house. It's about time the notification was sent out. Also, really quick, I do want to shout out to all the people that make this stream possible. Thank you guys, you're all amazing. So the first one on the list is going to be Beyal Thorne. We got the rank 12 versus 13. It says you deal an additional of 33% of weapon damage as a poison damage. With your powers, your foe triggers an additional 55% of weapon damage as poison damage to nearby foes after 4 seconds. Your primary target is slowed, stacking up to 3 times. What's changed? It went up from 33% to 44% of weapon damage as poison damage, and then your foe triggers an additional 55% to 76%. The amount of foes that are affected by this weapon enchantment is still the same, 4, and it only stacks up to 3 times. So the percentage is what's increased on this weapon enchantment as far as the damage is concerned, but that's about it. We'll go ahead and put it in place really quick so we can actually see the visual effects of it. So the visual effects hasn't really changed much. They're all still the same, no difference made at all. They all look alike. That's really all the changes. Just the percentage has changed. The amount of enemies that are affected, and the stack is still the same. I don't know, you tell me if it's worth getting this from 12 to 13. Let me know in the comments below. I mean, the damage has increased quite a bit, to be honest. It went from 33% all the way up to 44, so 10% damage increase. And then from 55 all the way up to 76 on multiple targets. Let's go ahead and review the next one on the line, guys. We're going to go ahead and shove in here the Bronzewood enchantment. This one says you deal an extra 29% of weapon damage as an arcane damage. The rank 13 has been boosted up from 29% all the way up to 37%. Targets struck by your encounter powers become marked. It's kind of like being a GF with this enchantment. While marked, you're at will and encounter powers do 16% more damage. It's been boosted up all the way to 18% more damage on the 13 instead of the, the mod 12B. You and your allies also do 5% more damage, and this is boosted up to 8% more damage. And let's see what it looks like. This one you get the butterfly effect, guys, and the leaves come out of it. It looks pretty awesome. It's a very good weapon enchantment, but I don't see a lot of people use this enchantment. You would think a lot more people would use it. You saw the stats are pretty good. You're going to be able to mark your target, and all the targets that are marked, you'd be doing damage to them. Plus, in addition to that, your team does a lot of damage to the target as well. So this is a great weapon enchantment. It's really surprising that people don't use this enchantment as often as you would think. I never seen anybody actually use this before, so maybe you guys should grab it and let me know what you think.
Maybe I should use it for my paladin. So that's just another buff that I can apply.
Exactly. That is absolutely right. The next one is going to be the
But imagine
Dread.
if you had like a team of those. If you have like 3 of them.
Oh my god,
that's
like
a
if
pretty big buff.
Are you kidding me? If you had a DC using it and a Paladin using it, like all the people out there that are not DPSs. Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's a 16% damage buff to all of your allies.
Oh, sick. Alright, the next one, obviously, we all know of this one. It's the Dread enchantment. You have like a dark theme to it with bubbles flying around. This is great for your child, if he likes bubbles.
Great for your child. Now comes with bonus critical severity, so you can be sure that you'll slice your child.
Guys, just so you know what to expect, you know, if you think it's going to be worth switching, I mean, upgrading it to the next level or not, because it's not really cheap upgrading it, guys. It's pretty expensive. It says your encounter powers strike with an additional 75% critical severity. So this is actually pretty great if you have a class that does a lot of crit and you depend on your encounters. Definitely worth getting it. And this has been bumped up all the way up to 80% critical severity, along with your potions. Okay, it's very easy to over exceed 100% critical severity. So, and your attacks cause dread in your target for 4 seconds, dealing 50% of weapon damage as Nararic damage. That's the only thing. The Nararic damage never really does a lot of damage. Like, it doesn't do a lot of damage. The most you'll get out of this weapon is going to be the 80% critical severity damage, which comes from, you know, critting your foe or your boss or whatever. Not your boss at your job, okay? Don't do that.
I reckon I could do that and still not get sacked.
You are special, man. They love you at your job. But everything else seems to, it stays the same. The defense reduction by 40%. Your critical strike now reduces your target's damage resistance by 4%. And for 4 seconds. This effect can trigger every 5 seconds. So everything else stays the same. Is it worth paying millions of ADs to get an extra 5% more of a critical severity? I don't know. I don't think so, man. I really don't think so. Maybe if it was like crit chance, maybe. An extra 5% crit chance. That's actually pretty good. Because it's not easy to achieve an extra 5% crit chance, especially if your crit is like 80-something%. Getting an extra 5% more chance on crit takes a lot of critical, you know, bonus or whatever to get that. But critical severity. Alright, let's go over the next one really quick. I hope you guys find this information, you know, helpful, I guess. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. Flaming Enchantment. Now, we're going to get to some of them that are definitely going to be worth upgrading, okay? I'll guarantee you that. But some of them are not. The Flaming Enchantment looks pretty dope, as always.
Thank you for your subscription. Welcome to the family.
Neltes, thanks for joining in. I appreciate you, bro. Welcome to the MiniMi family. This one, you have the hot flaming weapon. Especially if you're a GWF, it looks pretty dope if you have a big sword. Alright, you deal an additional 35% of weapon damage as fire damage with your powers. This been increased all the way up to 47%, guys. So that's a pretty decent amount of increase. Additionally, you burn your foes for 26% of your weapon. It's been increased all the way up to 37%. So an additional of 11% more increase. So this sounds like something you might want to upgrade as well. If you use this weapon enchantment. If you don't use it, don't even worry about it. Also, the amount of percentage, if you notice there, it says when you do damage to the target with 3 stacks, the target emits in a fire AoE that damage nearby enemies. And this has been increased from 176% all the way up to 236 of weapon damage. Which, it's okay. It's not going to do tremendous amount of damage, but it could, if you are buffed up by a paladin and buffed up by a DC, you will definitely see a difference. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, guys. Because there's 12 of them in total, so I don't want to be here forever. I would like to go through them rather quick. Here's the Frost Enchantment. This one has a frosty look to it.
Said, Rare Artist Gaming, check out my channel. Mini sucks.
Yeah, this one, you leave a trail of ice behind when you swing your sword. Pretty dope. You deal an additional 35% of weapon damage as cold damage with your powers. This has been increased to 47%, so you gain an extra 12% more. In addition, you apply a 30% slow and a 25% recharge speed reduction, which is pretty good, dude, right? You slow down your target by 30%, and you reduce your recharge time on your encounters by an additional 25%. So 11% damage resistance reduction and 11% damage dealt reduction to your target for 10 seconds. All of that has been increased by a little bit. This effect may occur no more than once every 20 seconds. That stays the same, guys. The next one is going to be the Holy Avenger, which this one is very popular. A lot of people use this one all the time. You got this beautiful looking glow on it. It looks like you're holding a beacon of light. Very bright. Especially if you have a GF with a big sword. Blinds your eyes. Holy Avenger. You deal an additional 66% of weapon damage as a radiant damage. This one has been boosted up all the way to 89%. This one is definitely worth upgrading, guys. If you're going to be using this weapon enchantment in your Paladin, or on your DC, or whatever, on your GWF. That's a pretty huge boost, from 66 all the way to 89%. A weapon damage as a radiant damage with your powers. You also have a 20% chance, that stays the same, on each swing to improve your allies' damage resistance by 20% while healing them, equal to your weapon damage for 15 seconds. What does radiant damage do? It doesn't really do a lot of damage. The only thing that does the most amount of damage is going to be your physical damage, or just pure. If a weapon says just damage, it doesn't have radiant in front of it, or Neraric damage, or blah 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 damage, or this or that damage. They're never going to do as much damage as when it says on the description just 15% more damage or something like that. Because 15% more damage, it just means that it's just doing 15% more damage on the damage you're already dealing. Okay? If it says radiant damage or Neraric damage or whatever other damages are out there, that's not referring to the actual damage you're doing. It's just pretty much doing damage, you know, as what it's describing. The next one is going to be your life drinker. This is going to drink your life away. So if you're alcoholic, go ahead and drink your life away, guys. You have
that sounds like the perfect enchantment for me.
For both of us, I guess.
Ah, yes. Perfect.
Do we stay in denial, Charles? Or are we really alcoholic?
What's the difference between being in denial and I kind of openly drink all the time, so...
If you guys seen the video, I have all enchantment review. You actually will see all the animations in every single one of them and what they look like when you attack enemies with them. But this one, it's like every time you attack an enemy, it steals their blood. It's pretty interesting. So anyway, let's go ahead and review this really quick. Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, it looks cool. It looks cool. Especially if you do it to multiple targets, you end up with loads of blood flying towards you. Like, yeah.
It's the Soul Collector. You deal an additional 44% of weapon damage as Neraric damage. There goes again, the Neraric damage, which really doesn't do a lot of damage. You know what class I've noticed does a lot of that Neraric damage? Is an SW class. Which is why I feel like SWs were never really all that successful in PvP, unless you did a really good build. I've seen some SW be nasty in PvP, but you have to have a good build and have a pretty high gear score. But this is bumped up from 44% all the way up to 59%. And also, the chance says you also increase your lifesteal chance by 12. It's been bumped up to 14. You gain an extra 2% lifesteal chance. And severity has been increased from 20 all the way to 25. The severity chance doesn't really make a huge difference, but the lifesteal chance all the way up to 14% is pretty good. Anyways, let's go ahead and review the next one. An extra 2% of life steal to spend millions of AD. It is not worth upgrading this to 13, guys. Not worth upgrading this to 13. Let's take a look at it one more time. You only gain an extra 2% more of life steal. If you use this weapon enchantment, it is not worth upgrading it. Because you can get an extra 2% of lifesteal from other sources very easy. So this one, it says you deal an additional 55% of weapon damage as lightning damage. This has been bumped up all the way up to 73%, guys. is definitely if you play a lot of PvE and you use a lightning enchantment, it is definitely worth upgrading this to a rank 13. This damage chains to 3 times at a 100% chance for each chain. If there is no chains that targets you do 33 more lightning damage. It's been bumped up all the way up to 50% more damage. So definitely worth upgrading this. Everything else stays the same, but the damage you do to multiple targets been bumped up to 73%, and the damage you do to a single target if there is no chains, if you fight on a boss, is bumped up to 50%, and this can stack up quick. So a lightning enchantment, it is worth upgrading to the next level. I kind of look like Charles now, full electricity. Did my companion make out with your shadow demon? I feel like it did.
It's like a Halloween love story.
This is the reason why I didn't want to turn on the fuse bot while I'm reviewing this, because normally I like to just see people's opinions and comments. I don't want to see people dealing, gambling. So I'm gonna disconnect that for a moment, guys. I apologize. I don't want to see you gambling while I'm reviewing these, because I wanna see people's opinions, what they think, what enchantment do they think is worth upgrading, and what enchantment do you guys think is worth not doing it. I would like your opinion. Don't just take my opinion for it. There's 55 people in the house. I would like your ideas. I would like, what enchantments do you guys use? Mostly on PvE. Let's take a look and see if it's worth upgrading. This is going to be your Plague Fire enchantment. 12 versus 13. Your power is dealing additional 26% of weapon damage. This has been increased all the way up to 34%. So you will gain a total of about 8% more damage boost as a weapon damage as fire damage, which again, the fire damage never really does enough damage, so it's not even worth getting this to a 13, to be honest. In addition, your foe burns for 18% of weapon damage every 1 second. You gain an extra 5% more of weapon damage. That's the reason why these weapon enchantments, they don't really are used that often by the community. If the target is affected by 3 stacks, your power causes the target to explode, dealing an additional of 262% of weapon damage as poison damage to a nearby foe. It used to be 145%, boosted up all the way to 262, which is a pretty large amount of increase. So I don't know, if you use this enchantment, maybe you may consider upgrading it. I don't know. It'd probably be better if you used your money to just get like the lightning enchantment or something. So it's the beautiful terror enchantment. Let's take a look and see what this looks like and what it does. And we got one more after this and we're all done. Oh my god, it's like, I'm happy about it. I just want to get this over with. You deal an additional 66% of weapon damage as Nararic damage. Again, here goes that Nararic damage, which never really does enough damage the way it's supposed to. So the weapon that you want to focus on is the weapon enchantment that's gonna just give you pure damage burst. Okay, the only good part about this weapon enchantment is not the damage that it does, but the other portion of it. In addition, your target takes 7% more damage, which is good, right? 7% more damage, and deals 77% damage less to you. When you strike a foe, you have a 10% chance to root the target for 3 seconds. This effect may occur no more than every 30 seconds. So that stays the same as far as the rooting goes. The only thing that's been increased is 1%. Oh my god. Oh yeah, and this is not worth upgrading, I'm telling you right now, because the Nararic damage doesn't really do any damage, and everything else is increased by 1%. So it's not even worth a 1% increase. So keep this at 12. Don't waste your money. You spend your AD something more useful, unless you worry about your stats, and you just want to have bigger stats because you want to look cool. Then go ahead. The next one, which is going to be the last one, guys, and this is done. And then I'm going to leave Fate Touch for the last one because I haven't reviewed that yet. But this is your Vorpal. You strike with an additional 50% critical severity. This has been bumped up to 5% additional critical severity. Vorpal and Dread are very similar. The only difference is that Vorpal crits severity all the time. Or doesn't matter if you're using your daily encounters, your main hand, or dread is only focused on your encounters only. Alright, let's read the whole description really quick. You strike with an additional 55% critical severity. Critical severity increases the damage your crit strikes and deals. Your critical strike now reduces your target's damage resistance by 3% and damage by 3%. So that's also bumped. This is definitely worth upgrading to the next level. I know a lot of people use Vorpal. Definitely worth upgrading. They fixed the Fate Touch, Charles.
Yeah, they had a bit of an update and they fixed most problems with it. Cool.
This is what the Vorpal looks like, guys. You have this matrix effect. It leaves like a trail behind. If I was using this on a GWF, you could definitely see that trail a lot better. Alright, you deal an additional 22% of weapon damage as physical damage with your powers. Which is, again, physical damage. Remember what we spoke about originally, guys? It's better than neurotic damage, and it's better than any other damages out there. Okay? It's been bumped up all the way up to 29% of weapon damage as physical damage with your powers. But here's where this encounter shines, and it's the reason why it's still the best when it comes to PvP. Especially this has been working excellent for PvE as well. So when you fight the final boss, it seems to be doing quite a lot of damage. It says also your encounter powers siphons away 18 of your target's damage. This damage is then converted into 18% more damage for you. Again, remember, when it says pure damage, that just means whatever damage you're doing is going to be bumped up by an additional 18% more damage for you. Which in rank 13 has been bumped up to 20% more damage for you. So when you use this weapon enchantment for PvP, you're technically swiping away your enemies a 20% damage burst, which is huge. It's large. So if you're fighting somebody that has a lightning enchantment or any other weapon enchantment, you're gonna destroy them in PvP. So the only way to stay competitive in PvP is to also have a Fate Touch enchantment as well, so that way it comes out to be equal. But everything else stays the same. The amount of seconds it takes to reboot or last, all that good stuff. This enchantment pretty much doesn't have a cooldown at all because it lasts for 20 seconds and it may only happen every 20 seconds. Fate Touch more like gate touched. I guess, yeah, you do get touched in a way you shouldn't be touched. But that is it, guys. Thank you for sticking by. Those are your weapon enchantment reviews. If you're new to the channel and you're hopping in for the first time, make sure you smash the sub button so that way you can stay notified. Other than that, you guys have any questions, any suggestions? I feel like a teacher. The class is over. You guys can go have your lunch.